Hi everybody, thanks for joining us for Northern Ag TV. Well, the National Association of Wheat Growers held their annual conference in Washington, D.C. last week, gathering producers from across the country to cover a variety of ag policy issues. Montana Grain Growers President Clayton Lord told me that some policies that were developed in Great Falls at their convention were adopted as national wheat growers policy.
There was 3 resolutions that got brought forward, all from Montana, and all 3 of them passed into the NOG policy book. One had to do with supporting pipelines for the purpose of, if you're running crude oil through a pipeline, then that frees up rail space. Another one had to do with when we have a disaster, any sort of ad hoc program, we'd like to see those payments structured around actual planted acres.
Clayton added that while in D.C., they were able to meet with our congressional delegation and the leaders of the House and Senate Ag committees, and past Montana Grain Growers President Nathan Kane was elected as treasurer of the National Association. Well, John Deere announced an expansion of their self-repair tools, providing more diagnostics and repair information for both farmers and independent repair shops. However, just one day after releasing that information, the Federal Trade Commission and attorneys general from Minnesota and Illinois filed an antitrust lawsuit against Deere, asking the court to force them to make all repair resources available to farmers. The new lawsuit alleges that Deere has created a monopoly by restricting who can repair its equipment. In a statement, though, Deere responded that the lawsuit, filed on the eve of a change in administration, is based on flagrant misrepresentation of the facts and fatally flawed legal theories, and punishes innovation and product design. And the Wyoming Legislature is back in session in Cheyenne. Brett Moline from the Wyoming Farm Bureau gave us an update on some of the topics being covered already. Things like eminent domain, funding litigation against the federal government, temporary change in use of water rights, and one bill that would require no net gain of federal lands in Wyoming.
We feel pretty strong. We got enough federal lands already. So if the federal government is going to take some land, well, they got to get rid of some. Wyoming's sitting at about 49% federal lands, and we don't want to add to that burden of having more lands under federal government and out of our local control.
And President Trump's nominee for Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins will have her confirmation hearing before the Senate Ag Committee on Thursday. And the president has also unveiled many of his high-level appointments for USDA. That includes South Dakota native Luke Lindbergh, who serves as president of South Dakota Trade and is nominated for Undersecretary of Trade and Foreign Ag Affairs. Richard Fordyce, who served as Farm Service Agency Administrator in the first Trump administration, is nominated as Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation. Dudley Hoskins, who also served in the previous Trump administration, is nominated to head up regulatory and marketing programs. And Idaho businessman Michael Bourne is the pick for Undersecretary of Natural Resources and Environment, which oversees the Forest Service. Thanks for joining us this morning. We'll be back with a quick check of the markets after this.
From the beginning, we've worked closely with farmers. BNSF's ties to the agricultural community go back 175 years. Together, we've innovated to make the U.S. agriculture supply chain one of the most efficient and productive in the world. Our strong relationship powers BNSF still today and helps us move the nation like no one else can. At BNSF, we move the nation for you.
Talking with someone that you know is stressed out, those are difficult things to approach, but if you're good friends with those people, reach out and say, I'm here to talk to you. We can find somewhere to get some assistance. It's hard to get involved, but at the same time, you want to just say, hey, there is help available.
For more tips in dealing with stress in agriculture or for free counseling for egg producers, visit beyondtheweather.com.
Well, it's not going to take us long to cover the markets this morning. Of course, we had a 3-day weekend for the markets thanks to the Martin Luther King Jr. federal holiday, but things are going to get busy for the cattle. At the end of the week, we've got both a cattle on feed and cold storage report coming out. Of course, cash-fed cattle trade's been hitting record highs in 2025, up another $1 to $2 on the average last week. Live deals coming in 201 to 206, dress trade 318 to 327. A big feeder sale at Pays in Billings with 400 to 700 pound steer calves selling 10 to 18 higher than last month. 5.5 to 6 weight steers sold with an average at $345, 6 to 6.5 weights at $327, upper 6 weight steers averaging $301, and the lighter end of the 7 weights at $295. A bred cow sale at the Glasgow Stockyard saw bred heifers selling $27.50 to $29.50, 3 to 6-year-old bred cows $29.75 to $35.25, short-term cows $18 to $2,500, and should mention that not one of those cows ended up leaving the high line. And the grain market could get interesting as the trade will closely be watching executive actions by President Trump to see how they could affect trade. The previous Trump administration was equal parts good news with new markets being open, but offset by bad news with restricted market access and retaliatory tariffs. Right now, cash grain values continue to struggle at this point. 14 Pro Dark Northern Spring Wheat 75 cents to $1 below where we were last year, and 12 Pro Hard Red Winter Wheat 50 to 85 cents under a year ago levels. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Coulter Brown, Northern Ag Network.